Every sport has its warriors, athletes who didn't just compete, but they define what commitment really looks like. In the world of wrestling, Tony Ramos is one of those warriors. Tony Ramos is the associate head coach at the University of North Carolina, a name that carries weight on and off the mat. I've watched Tony for many years, following his career as an athlete and now as a coach, and while I haven't yet had the chance to meet him personally, he's always stood out as someone who embodies what Kumite lifestyle is all about, which is discipline, resilience, and the relentless pursuit of greatness. In this episode, Tony shares his journey from elite competitor to one of the top coaches in the nation. He brings perspective not only in winning matches, but on building athletes, building character, and what it truly means to live the wrestling lifestyle at the highest level. So get ready, because this conversation isn't just about wrestling, it's about mindset, leadership, and the fire it takes to chase excellence every single day. Let's dive in with Tony Ramos. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Kumite Lifestyle. And today I'm super excited to be joined by the one and only Tony Ramos. Tony, thank you for joining the show today. And how's it going?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And guys, Tony Ramos, well, actually, I'll let you kind of introduce yourself. So where are you at right now?
So I'm at University of North Carolina now, the associate head coach. I think that going on year 10, been here a while now since 2016. So it's been a lot of fun and just down here in Chapel Hill, living out our dreams of coaching and being able to coach athletes.
Dude, that is awesome. And I remember when you first got there, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Coach Coleman Scott was the one that initially invited you. So
Yeah.
talk about what was that transition like? Because you had just come off your freestyle career. I remember watching that match. I think it was the Olympic trials, I
Yep.
believe. And then what, like maybe a couple months later, Coleman hits you up and here you are, right?
Yeah, so it was pretty quick actually after Olympic trials. Didn't ended up losing the Olympic trial finals. Didn't get to be an Olympian, the goals, dreams that everyone has, and the opportunity to wrestle in Rio. But I always knew I wanted to go into coaching, and I knew after 2016, even if I was going to keep competing, that's what I wanted to do next. So started to kind of look around and see what options were out there. I talked to North Carolina, I talked to Wisconsin, Purdue, Arizona State, just to see what the next step was and what that looked like. And North Carolina ended up being, where we felt was the best fit for just myself and for the family and everything going forward.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. And obviously it played out because you've had such a great career just as a young coach. I mean, obviously
Yeah.
you're not a young coach now. I mean, you have, such a wealth of experience and in my opinion, one of the best, assistants. So talk about that because, something that I've always wondered. So you have these All-Americans, you have these, Division One champs, Division Two. So I think most people and like, including myself, so the transition from you're an athlete to coaching, does that kind of just happen automatic? Because I know not everyone gets to be, an assistant
Yeah.
coach or a head coach, but traditionally, what's that trajectory like? Do most kids after they finish college say, you know what, I'm going to get into coaching, whether it's club or high school or college? So I think you're very fortunate. I mean, you are very fortunate to be where you're
Yeah.
at, but not everyone gets, that opportunity. And, one coach I can think of is also Tyler Caldwell out in Oklahoma
Yeah.
State because, I mean, he's killing it out there and so are you. So it's great to see how like young athletes kind of make that transition. So like, what do you think? Like, does it happen kind of organically or like you said, you just have to network and just as I say, know the right people.
I think it's a mix. I think it really varies. I knew I wanted to coach from day one. Like that's what I wanted to do. And I think I started pretty early on. You start in college when you're running camps and clinics, and then you're helping running the camps at Iowa or whatever university you're at. And then you start having the conversations with your coaches, like, hey, what do you want to do when you're done? What do you want to do when you graduate? Well, you either want to compete and wrestle in the Hawkeye Wrestling Club, or you want to coach, or some people want to go out into the real world. I'm not saying this isn't the real world, but it's still in athletics, and there's a lot that happens. But you got to start making those decisions and put yourself in position. Like you have people who want to go in business, right?
Yeah.
They start doing internships, they start networking, they start creating opportunities for them when they graduate to get in those, accountant positions or real estate or whatever it is they want to do in business. And it's kind of similar in wrestling and coaching. Well, if I want to coach, what skills or what tools do I need to be able to put in my toolbox for when I'm done? Whether that's public speaking, whether it's marketing, whether it's, just learning how to run camps or how to teach technique or how to work with kids. So you help with the local youth clubs. There's a lot of different ways to start getting that hands-on experience.
Yeah,
And then it goes into how, well, if your career went well, you're going to have a lot more opportunities because people want the guys that are winning right when they get out of college. If
absolutely.
it didn't and you want to get into coaching, you might have to take a different path. You might have to start at the high school level. You might have to start in a club, work your way up, and then do really well in that scene, and then maybe get into an assistant position at a lower university, or not a lower, but a smaller school, and then kind of keep working through the ranks that way. So there's a lot of different ways to get into it. And what sucks in wrestling is a lot of it depends on how you did in wrestling. And
For
as we all
sure.
know, even the best wrestlers aren't the greatest coaches,
Yeah,
and the greatest coaches aren't always the best wrestlers.
yeah,
Uh, but name is a thing that the kids look for in recruiting. So that's where it's hard to like, yeah, this guy didn't really do much in wrestling, but he's an amazing freaking coach, and getting a kid to buy into that and really understand that.
yeah.
So it does suck that in athletics or in our sport that sometimes people want the name recognition more than is this a good coach or not?
Yeah, and I think that's everywhere. Like, just especially with the growth of social media, because
Yep.
I feel like our generation, man, we just missed that Instagram, Twitter era, and then like it
Yep.
was like right after that, everything kind of took over. So, no, it's awesome about the coaching mindset, and I want to kind of talk about that. But before we do, I want to kind of go back in
Yep.
time. So, I remember the very first time that I actually saw you was, I think it might have been a Fargo match, and man, like, we talk about social media being so light back then, like I didn't only like I only knew your name if I actually, got like a USA Wrestling magazine, I mean, kids nowadays have Instagram, social media, like I said, Flow Wrestling, because that wasn't
Yeah.
a thing because I think my senior year was when Flow just was just getting started. And I said to myself, man, how great would it have been for like, you like Alex Beats to kind of have that, opportunity, but is what it is. So I remember watching you in college, man, like, and that famous Ramos stare. And I'm like, yo, I can get down with this guy because like I'm a smaller person too. And like you just showed no fear and just having that mindset, whether people liked you or not. And I remember hearing you say, like, whether you're the good guy or bad guy, people are going to talk about you. So like, give them something to talk
Yeah.
about. And that's something that I always always admired about you there. So let's kind of let's talk about that famous Ramos stare. And do you still have the Ramos stare now? Is that something that you instill in your athletes, or is that just something that you did during your competitive years?
I just think it was a thing that happened. It was the way I got ready. I was prepared for a match. You talk about routines and just knowing you're ready to go, and that was part of my routine. And it's funny you kind of talk about just like the social media and all the different things. Yeah, it would have been cool to have it back in our day, and it was like you said, it was just starting in our
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
And I remember like asking our director of ops or our media people one time just to use my Twitter name in a post, and they looked at me like I was crazy.
why
Like,
is
yeah, we're
that
not
though?
doing that
Like
because it wasn't big then. Like
mm,
then you were, and the big thing they said to me to understand is like you're not bigger than the brand or the school, and I totally understood that. But when you look at it now, it's like, how do we build these kids brands so they can make more money or piggyback off the school and all these different things? And it's funny how
exactly.
some of us were way ahead of the time.
Yeah,
And self, David Taylor, there were a group of us in that era that would have been way ahead of our time. And
yeah,
where we look back and like, man, maybe if they were doing these things then, like what could that have grown into?
yeah.
Or if they listened to us back then, where could those universities be, or how much of a head start would they have had when we tried to get them to change the way of looking at it back then?
Exactly. It's one of those things like I'm sure everyone, especially coaches and the admins
Yeah.
would wish, man, things I wish we would have listened to the, Tony Ramoses and David Taylor, but
Yeah.
look, like I said, is what it is. But I mean, you guys have done such a phenomenal job, you and David Taylor, and just, all the young coaches too, because that's really like who I've been trying to gravitate towards, like even Colin Palmer, who we had on recently, didn't have the career that he wanted in college, but man,
Yep.
like does he have one of the best clubs in Ohio and just the nation. So it's interesting how we plan our lives, but it doesn't go the way that we want, and it's interesting in that sense. So in your early days, man, how did like when did you know like all right, like wrestling is going to be like this is it for me, or did you do other sports? Did you have other interests? Because I know you mentioned that like your family does hockey, which I'm a huge hockey fan
Yeah.
too, but was wrestling like your pedigree? Like was it your identity growing up?
I would probably say yeah, and at the same time, like I don't know if I really had a choice. My whole family wrestled. My dad wrestled. My brothers wrestled. It was something that you just kind of did, and they put me in at such a young age.
Yeah.
Where I was 3 years old. I'm not saying I want to wrestle or not wrestle. Like you didn't have a choice on
Yeah.
that. And it's always, th those are some of the questions like I asked my dad too. Like, hey, when did you know that I was actually pretty good, or that I could go far in this? And like you can never answer those questions
Yeah.
because just in the way I explain to my kids. Because we don't talk about my career much. I don't like to. It's just, it happened.
Yeah.
I wrestled and it's funny because like even the other day I was throwing away some of my awards and they're like, why are you getting rid of those? It's like, because they're just taking up space. Like, yeah, I have the memories and the moments and the fun times, but all those accolades and the awards and Bobby Schreiner, one of my closest, I would say mentors, who's also, one of our coaches here on staff, always talks to me about how like those things fade, they go away, they rust, they get old. Like though, it's how you make people feel. It's about the memories you create, and which gets me back to kind of when you asked that question. Like I don't think I ever sat there and said, "Oh, this is when I'm going all in." I know it. I
Yeah.
think I just loved winning, and I
Yeah.
won, and I was good at it, and I just kept wanting to get the feeling of winning and the excitement. So
Yeah.
you kept and you did it, and then you did it harder, and then when you lost, you had the feelings of, man, I don't want to feel that again. So you worked even harder.
Yeah.
Um, and that's kind of where I'm at with my kids now. AJ's 10, he's getting older, and just creating the right habits in the right mindset more than the wins and the losses, and giving him every opportunity possible to be successful. Now that's up to him to realize, hey, I want to go all in on this or not.
Yeah.
And I'm never gonna like, hey, you have to wrestle, you have to do this, you have to do that. Like they're gonna play the sports they want to play, and if they love them and they have fun with them, they're gonna be great at it.
Yeah, and I think that's such a great approach because when you had that championship mentality, especially all the success that you had earlier in your career and even up to college and even your freestyle
Yeah,
career, I guess the perspective or the assumption would be, yeah, of course Tony Ramos kids are going to wrestle. But when I saw your kids playing hockey, I said, bro, this is awesome, because
yeah,
you can be a champion in any asset of life, So, no, I think that's great that you've adopted that mindset and that you don't force your kids to do, something that they don't want to do. But, that can be tough because I was talking to Colin about this. Like growing up, I know you guys, like your practices in wrestling, especially, were brutal.
yeah,
And like I don't want to say like today's generation is softer because again that would just be projection, but I want to
yeah,
like I'm a firm believer that you guys, especially coming up, you guys went through the ringer and it made you who you guys are today. So um growing up though, like wrestling, was there ever a time you said, man, I don't want to do this, man, this is freaking hard, maybe you're coming off a loss and you know what I mean? So like what was that like for you? And like Tony, how did you keep yourself motivated? Because I mean, I do
yeah,
jujitsu, man, like I get tapped out. I'm thinking, man, this is tough, but obviously not like can't give up, of course, but I'm talking about the magnitude of being a kid because kids don't
yeah.
understand that.
No, that's I never had the point where like I wanted to quit, but my brother struggled with it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it's just how you're wired, and that's a big reason why my I never really pushed my kids to wrestling. You got to be a little crazy. You got to be a little special.
Yeah.
And if they get there, they get there. But it's there's a lot of hard times, right? And even you see it at the college level when kids aren't having success and they're used to success, and then they don't have it. They got to make that decision. They're at that moment of, do I just give up or do I figure out how to make it work? And
Yeah.
I think there were times in my career like that. Like I never, yeah, I won state and all these events, and you're just talking about how you were with Colin Palmer. I used to lose to him and David and Logan and those guys all the time. I'd
Really?
always finish second and third and second and third, and at Reno and Tulsa and all these big events. And you were always right there, but it was finally like, when do you get over that hump? And that was it. Same thing even at like the college level.
Yeah.
Third, second, Big Ten, second, third. it wasn't until my senior year where finally like you get what you wanted, and
Yeah.
then you had to keep chipping away at it. And again, those are, and you kind of mentioned a little bit, you don't want to project that kids these days are softer. I think it's the other way around where maybe we had it so hard
Yeah.
and our parents were so tough on us, like we don't want to be so tough on our kids.
Yeah.
And that's something where, like, even with my son in sports, and I said it earlier, I'm trying to teach him the right philosophies and the right things. Like the other day, his ankle was rolled.
Mm.
And yeah, it would have been easy to say, yeah, we're not going to practice today because I don't want to drive you. But instead, it's like, no, I'm driving your butt up there and you're going to sit and you're going to watch. And I remember one of the parents was like, man, that's awesome that he was up here watching. I go, I'd make my college guys, if they were hurt, still come to practice. What's the difference?
Yeah.
Just trying to teach these little lessons at a young age so he has the right mindset of how to be great or how to stay tough or how to handle different situations. I think we need to do a better job with that as parents.
Yeah.
But again, I think sometimes we go away from it because we remember how hard it was on us when we were going through, and we don't want our kids to feel that because yeah, it's hard, it's tough.
Yeah.
Uh, so
Yeah.
I think, those are some of the areas where I'm trying to make sure we're doing a really good job so they grow up the right way.
Yeah, so it's take all yes. So you're taking all the things that you learned and wish they would have done better, or maybe didn't have
Yeah,
lack thereof.
yeah,
Yeah, it makes sense, and that's why I believe you're one of the best coaches now because you have the best of both worlds. Like you take the Iowa style, you take
yeah,
the Illinois style, and obviously you've kind of helped transform that to your coaching now. Yeah, man, that's awesome. So you mentioned some names. You mentioned Palmer, Dake. I'm sorry, not Dake, but Taylor and Stieber. And forgive me
yeah.
if I'm missing
Dake was in our
anyone.
brackets too, but I don't think I ever wrestled him.
Yeah,
Dake was not Dake till he got to college.
yeah, bro, and that's
It's
crazy.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, because I've talked to some other people about that, and even just like listening to other athletes. I remember Jordan Oliver was saying like, yeah, I didn't even know who Dake was, So
yeah,
it's crazy how some kids they just pick up at different levels, or they kind of peak at the right time. So when you were in high school, like, did you have any good rivalry matches, like any matches that kind of stand out for you? Because I know you and John Morrison had some good
yeah.
battles in college, but were there any particular matches in high school that you can recall that was like a redefining moment? You're like, yeah, like I'm exactly where I need to be because I know you've done Fargo and all these
Yeah.
other events. But actually, let me ask you this before I forget. Do you feel like USA Wrestling, and this could be a loaded question, do you feel that USA Wrestling would benefit more if they completely got rid of folk style and focused 24/7 on freestyle, even at the college level? Because I mean, like you see all the success now that we have, but
Yep.
does folk style wrestling, I mean, does that help with our development when it comes to freestyle overall?
Okay. So I have a very strong opinion on this.
All right.
And this has nothing to do with the actual wrestling.
Sure.
Um, do I think it'll make us better? Maybe by a little bit if we focus on freestyle. Maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, but we're having a ton of success now. Like it's not like we're not winning and we're not consistently one of the top countries. So we're doing something right.
Yeah.
Now, do I think if we go to freestyle at the college level, I think it kills college programs. And here is why. Um, and this is where I think women's wrestling might be struggling right now.
Mm,
How quick can a freestyle dual meet end?
very fast.
30, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And if we're trying to have events, right? And right now we're getting people to come to Iowa or Penn State and you're getting 15,000 fans, 16,000 fans. They don't want to come for a possible 30-minute match. They want
Mm,
to come for a 2-hour experience. And the only folk style is a perfect style to be able to extend matches, to make things a little bit longer. Um, to not have those quick tech falls the way the rules are.
yeah.
Where if you go into a match and let's say it's an Iowa, you see the blowouts already. Let's say it's Penn State versus, and I don't want to throw any university's name out there, so I'm not going to say it, but maybe one of those lower
Sure.
tier schools.
Sure.
And they're already rolling them up in folk style or in freestyle, or sorry, they're already rolling them up in folk style.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what a freestyle dual meet is going to look like? And
It's-
you got your fans coming out for 45 minutes.
yeah. I never thought about that way. I didn't. Hmm.
And that's where I think women's wrestling struggling right now. They can't hold duels
Yeah.
because their go so fast. Unless they're doing a tri meet, a quad meet, they can't hold a single individual duel or create a schedule where you're getting fans to buy in and you're getting these people excited and they're blocking out the time of day because again, if I got kids, I'm not going for it better be at least an hour and a half, 2 hour event.
Yeah.
Not not gonna drive an hour to get there, watch 30 minutes of wrestling and then oh, we gotta go home now.
Yeah.
So I think that is the biggest reason why we cannot do that.
Hmm. That's interesting. No, it makes total sense as far as from a fan perspective, and even just it's probably just not as lucrative either. But like, I mean, you look at events like RAF too, so I feel like it can be done, but maybe not
Yeah.
all the time. So it has to be kind of be like a special thing. Yeah, for sure. Why do you think Greco-Roman has not had the same success as freestyle? I've wondered that, you know?
That's another one too.
Like, why is Greco not as popular? Because did you do Greco
I
as a kid?
I did it as a kid and I was pretty good at it. I mean, I beat Ellis Coleman many a times, only lost to him one time ever.
So why is
Um,
Greco not like I don't know, man. Like,
I don't think it's a thing that it's not such a big thing. I think the Greco community really fights back against everyone. I mean, the other day I had said something about it'd be really cool if Greco introduced being able to attack the lower legs with your lower legs, whether it's trips, inside trips, hips, and someone responded back, well, you need to get in a room and understand Greco. I understand Greco. I know you can use your legs
yeah,
in Greco.
yeah,
We need to get better at Greco. We
yeah,
need to get more exciting at Greco. We need to learn how to score points in Greco.
yeah,
And let's not start just getting on every person in the wrestling community if they say one little thing about Greco and try and say, well, you don't understand it. No, we do. I wrestle it. I understand it. I coach guys in it that do
yeah,
pretty decent
yeah.
in the American, in U.S. soil. It's we're just not good at it, and that's a matter of the fact, and we need to get better at it.
Yeah, it's interesting too because like I know David Taylor did Greco and like a lot of these
Yeah,
Fargo champs back then or did Greco. So we have knowledge of Greco base. I don't
right.
know, I can't understand it even from a fan standpoint. You have such success in freestyle and Greco doesn't, but everything you're saying just makes sense. We just got to get better at it. And do you
Yeah,
think the projection of Greco is going to get better, maybe from a 5 year to maybe a 10 year, time span, Tony?
that's a tough one. I think if you get the right people in place, I think we might have them there. I'm not really. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. I don't know that side enough to understand
Yeah.
the whole piece. But what I really think you need is someone who's connecting with the college kids or is close to the college community and can go to a guy and say, "Hey, look, you never beaten David Taylor.
Yeah.
Like that, come over to Greco. You got the skill set, you got whatever it may be. Figure out how you need to pay him. Maybe you pay him a little extra money. They're going to be the guy on the ladder instead of making 250 for in your third on the freestyle ladder. You're making 1,000 on the Greco ladder.
Yeah.
I think you got to get creative in ways to get these college guys that are never going to be the guy in freestyle to switch over and make a run at the Greco side.
Sure. Yeah, it is interesting there. And like even at the early levels, like the U20s or the
Yeah.
U17s, which I want people to understand, like again, like when you were competing, especially at the
Yeah.
cadet, junior level, you won all those events. But unfortunately, at the time, to my knowledge, USA didn't have those
So
opportunities, and I think people are thinking, oh, it's so new. Like, no, it's not, because I was having a conversation with a homie. I said, no, Tony Ramos won the cadets. He like, but at the
I
time
think
they
I was
didn't.
the first ever three-time
Were you,
champ.
dude?
I don't
See,
like pretty close, something like that. But you see it now where people talk about like, oh, this guy's a three-time cadet uh world team member. I was like, well, yeah, if we had him back then, I was also. But they
yes,
didn't have teams then.
yes,
I have those conversations every now and then because 2009, when I finally got to wrestle in juniors, that was when we only did juniors and I made the junior team.
yeah,
Same guys I wrestled in the junior world championships are the same guys I wrestled in the seniors when I got in the seniors. Rahimi won
yep,
or took second in 2009, and that's the same guy I was competing against through my whole senior level career. So yeah, I do wish I had the opportunity to do it from cadets all the way through. You
yeah,
don't know where you're able to, the growth you might have made or what was going on then. We didn't have U23s either, and I'm pretty
exactly,
sure I won a U23. So that's four world teams that I didn't get to wrestle on
yeah.
because we didn't go. So those are interesting things to think about.
That's gotta be frustrating too, man, because knowing like, you
It
know,
is a little bit. It is a little bit.
do you think that Fargo would be a great place for like the Fargo finals for like if you win the Fargo finals, you get to represent the US, because you see like I don't think Jordan Oliver, not I'm sorry, not Jordan Oliver. I forgot who it was,
So
but
no, I
Spencer
get what
Lee
you're
never
saying.
wrestled
Yeah.
Fargo. Yeah, because Spencer Lee never wrestled Fargo. So I think it would make sense from a wrestling base because you already have the like top coaches there,
Yeah.
like scouting recruiting. Why is Fargo not the main event like a final X?
It's interesting, and I think there's two reasons to that. One, I know they want to have the team set, but like you said, in my senior year, 2009, I didn't wrestle Fargo because I was on the junior world team.
Yeah.
Um,
It was almost like what's the point, right? Because you already made the
it's
world
it's
team.
it's almost what's the point, but I think Fargo, and this is a whole different conversation.
Sure.
It's turned into a big money grab. There's way too many kids there. Like there's
Yeah.
kids that do not
Yeah.
belong wrestling some of the kids that are there.
Really.
Um,
What was
and
it
you
like back then though? Because so like I know for Delaware, people had to try out for it because you had the Alex Meads, the Chris
Yeah, you
Diaz's.
still had to try out, but I don't understand how the growth, like every year, how you add in all these growth unless you're adding qualification spots.
Gotcha.
So that's the part I've never really looked at. Like, what were the qualification spots back when I wrestled to compare what it is now?
So can every
Or
team
did
only send a certain amount of wrestlers per weight class?
it's supposed to be something like that? And then the plains, you got Northern Plains, Western Regionals, all those ones were qualifiers. And then if you qualified through that, you got one back for your state.
Gotcha.
So I'm not really sure how that maybe has changed where they've had so much growth, but it's almost like the senior level when you have the US Open and you got a guy who's 50 years old just who wants to enter and wrestle and he gets rolled up right away. Like there's some kids that their parents are paying $1,000 to go to this tournament that they do not belong
Yeah.
at Fargo. I can't, you see some of those first round matches
Yeah.
and these brackets are ridiculous how big they are.
Yeah. I have actually like I stopped watching the Fargo just as a
Yeah.
whole. I watch the Fargo finals every now and then, but really, man, I mean, Fargo was exciting to watch when you guys were there. You, David
Yeah.
Taylor, Jordan Oliver, Josh Kindig, and those guys, because
Yeah.
like you guys had to scrap. And I'm not saying that these kids don't, but it was just a different time, man. It was just a different era, though.
Yeah.
It's good. So you go to Iowa for college, and you had a great like career there. And what most people don't know is that you're originally from Illinois. Was Illinois like was that a like was that something that you were considering, or was the Hawkeyes like no, like I'm going there, like I don't care what anyone thinks, you know? So kind of talk to me
This
about
is
that.
always an interesting one. I try to be as nice as I can when I say it. I was really close with Carl Perry, right?
Sure. Yeah.
He coached the Fargo team, him and Jeremy Hunter, like those were our guys.
Nice.
Liked him a lot. I didn't actually know Jim Heffernan at all.
He was
And
the coach that came in, right?
he was an assistant on Illinois staff.
Gotcha.
I never knew that. Didn't know him.
Mm,
This could be because there wasn't flow or anything like that around. You don't look at those things. You didn't have as much connection. But Carl and Jeremy were my guys.
yeah.
And Carl more than anyone. And I think it was my senior year is when Mark Johnson retired. And I knew Mark. And to be honest, I thought there were only three coaches on staff, Mark, Carl, and Jeremy. Had no clue about Jim. And I thought there was no doubt Carl was getting the job. And if he got the job, there was a good chance probably would have went um,
Illinois.
to Illinois.
Yeah.
Iowa was a big one, but I was close with Carl.
Were you recruited by the Brand brothers?
Not really. I wasn't really
Mm,
recruited by Iowa. Carl did not get the job, and they gave it to Jim Heffernan.
mm,
And the first thing I was like, "Who is this guy? I don't know him like at all." Like
yeah.
I was very surprised and shocked by it.
Yeah.
And when that happened, it just was not an option anymore because Carl had left. Jeremy obviously was still there, but Carl, we still talked and had some recruiting conversations about like, "Hey man, this still be a good thing. You should still come." But once that transition happened, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna look at some other options. And I looked at Oklahoma State, I looked at Iowa, Indiana was my brother was there, but it really wasn't much of an option. It came down to Iowa and Oklahoma State, and Iowa ended up being the one where I wanted to go.
Yeah, and around that time, Iowa also had some lightweight like studs too. 'Cause
They did not need me. They had Nate Moore, they had Tyler Clark transferring, they
Plus
had a
Matt
lot of
McDonough
good
as well,
names.
right? Yeah.
McDonough was there.
Man, so you
Yeah,
really
so
had
they
to
did not
prove
recruit me
yourself.
pretty hard at all.
Yeah, so you get to Iowa and like, what's the expectation? You're thinking, all right, like I'm just gonna, I mean, obviously you know it's gonna be tough, but like were there ever times you said, man, I chose the wrong school because they don't need me here, but like maybe you needed
Not
Iowa,
once.
I don't know.
Yeah. Not once. Like that's one. Those are, and it's funny because I always like to bet on myself to be, and I always have. And I appreciate kids in the recruiting now, where like sometimes I'm like, man, I don't know about that school you're picking. Like, I don't know if you're ever gonna wrestle there, but I was that same kid, so I understand it. I get it.
Yeah,
Like you're chasing this dream, and you got to make it happen. And sometimes it works out for you, and sometimes it doesn't.
yeah. So some of the battles with Nate Moore and um,
Yeah.
Tyler Clark, you said. So explain what a typical, if you can, like what's a typical practice like at Iowa back then? So like knowing you're not the number one guy, but knowing that you have a chance. Like every
Yeah.
time you come in, like you come into practice not knowing, like was that hard to form bonds on the team? Like take someone like who's in your same weight class.
Yeah.
Like how do you still have that team mentality while still thinking, no, like I'm still competing for a spot because I want to win a national champion. Like, yeah, we can be friends, but did you ever have like in Iowa at least or in college, did you ever struggle with that?
I wouldn't say as much as people probably think.
Yeah,
Um, I wouldn't say me and Nate Moore or me and Tyler Clark were the best of friends, but there were other guys like Nick Jerzino was also around that same way, and he was one of my best friends.
yeah,
And I think it just kind of really depended on how competitive maybe it was or how heated it got or just a lot of different little things that went into it. And you're a team, and obviously you understand. And it was probably different than it is now. Like you couldn't. It's not easy to transfer back then. So like when you go, you were kind of stuck there. You
yeah,
you had to make it work.
yeah.
It's probably a little bit easier in those, some of those situations. You might not be as much of a team player because it's easy. "Oh, I'm just gonna go here. I'm gonna go there." Um,
I think that's really stunted our,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah, it's made it harder, and I
yeah,
would say that the only time where I like there was big conflict, and a lot of people know the story, is when I was on the guy for the senior level, and I was doing everything right and making the teams, and then they brought in my biggest competition to train right alongside me, in 15, 16, and that one was the biggest one, and that was just more so like I didn't understand it.
yeah,
I didn't understand it at all. Still to this day, I won't.
yeah,
But it's one of those things you kind of move past.
yeah. I mean, it's a part of your story, right? But I mean, like
Yeah,
it's a part of what happened, but you can learn that now as an
yeah,
opportunity, right, to do better for yourself and your team members, right? Because yeah, I
yeah,
remember when all that went down and I saw your interview and just the raw emotions was so authentic. I'm like, man, this man's hurting. Not only did he
yeah.
lose, but you felt a certain type of way because of the team that you were so loyal to. And yeah, but all that for a different day, of course. So now let's talk about how your mindset has really shifted because, when people see the college Tony Ramos, they see a totally different version of you now. And obviously you're in the coaching, the coaching role, excuse me. But does your environment dictate who you are?
I don't think fully, and I think that's maybe where people like paint this picture of Iowa and everyone's robots and this and that. Like
Yeah,
if you knew me then, like yeah, I was super competitive when it was time to compete, but I was the same person off the mat as I am now. Like, and I like the same things. Maybe I've gotten smarter and just different how I view some things or maybe way I go about talking about some stuff.
yeah,
Because yeah, when you're there, you're hearing these messages over and over and over, and that's how you maybe repeat some of those things. But as you get to other places, you hear different messages, you learn different ways of looking at things and seeing things, and how to train or whatever it may be, and you start to pick up what fits you and your style and what makes sense. For the time you're in or the team you might have.
yeah,
So I think that those are maybe the biggest changes. And when you talk about like, is it the environment you're involved with? I bet if you ask the guys now on the team, like, no, he's pretty freaking intense and he can be scary sometimes.
sure.
Or he's the guy you when you miss a class or a tutor, like you don't want to get. hey, you got to go talk to Coach Ramos, because yeah, that intensity is still there.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm not competing every day, so it's not something you see consistently all the time.
Yeah. And speaking of intensity and mindset, I want to draw on a question real quick from your college career, Logan Stieber, because I know you guys
Yeah,
had battles. How the heck did you stay motivated, even though he was the guy that you were chasing? Because it's easy. I don't say
yeah,
it's easy because once you get to the top, it's not getting to the top, it's staying on top. So for the longest time, I know he was the guy that you were chasing,
yeah.
and I would see how because you care how much emotion was involved there. But man, how did you stay level-headed while still being like, he's the guy that I need to beat? And was he the only person you thought of there for a long time?
I would say just my whole career kind of got you ready for that. Like,
Yeah,
and I won high school and I won events and things like that, but there were a lot of things that I wanted to win that I didn't, and you always got to keep working at it. And it's kind of the same thing there. You know, he was the guy, right? He was the guy I knew I had to beat. And I wouldn't say like he was the only guy that was on my mind because there were
sure.
a lot of guys I knew I had to prepare and get ready for. And every match was always going to be, a dogfight. And that was just the way you had to go about it. But, I remember one time after I lost to him and Tom had come up to me and he had said something like, you know what the difference is between you and some of these other guys? And he goes, it's a freaking war, and some of them don't want it to be a war. You want this to be a war, and you want to freaking find a way to make it happen. I'm like, yeah, I do, and that's why I come in here every day working. Like when I remember the first time we wrestled, he rode the piss out of me, and I wasn't gonna let that happen again. I was getting out from under him. I wasn't gonna get turned, and I never got turned by him again. And I always got out from under him.
Yeah,
Yeah, a couple times I gave riding time, but it wasn't a situation where if I got taken down, I knew the match was over. Like they were gonna be figure out ways to be able to win. And those matches always got closer and closer, and I gave myself chances where, I feel like, and I look at it sometimes, and I'm close with Izzy Martinez,
yeah.
and,
Izzy
and
style.
you go look at Mikey Caliendo, right?
Yeah,
And Mitchell Messenbrink. I feel like it's a very similar situation there. And finally, one day I asked Izzy, I go, man, Izzy, like Caliendo's got to fight him. He's got to fight him. And he's like, what do you mean? I go, I had a guy like that in my weight class too, but I never got tech fault. I never got my butt kicked.
yeah,
And then I don't know if Izzy talked to him or what happened, but it kind of somehow after we had that conversation, freaking Big Tens and NCAAs, those were matches. And
yeah,
I was like, that's what I wanted to see. Like I don't care if he loses, but you gotta fight. You can't be scared of this guy just because everyone says he's special or
yeah,
he's some freak or this or that. And I feel like sometimes when you have these superstar wrestlers and everyone like a Jason Wolf and a David Taylor and like you say, a lot of people in their mindset they kind of run from that because they're talked about so much and oh
yeah,
man, they're so good. I don't know if like for me, I was like, no, I want to be the one to knock that guy off,
yeah,
and I got to do everything I can and train even harder and figure out how do you beat this guy,
yeah,
how do you make the dog fight. And I saw those changes in the last time, couple times Caliendo wrestled Mesenbrink.
yeah.
He didn't look timid. He went out to freaking try and win and wrestle.
Mindset,
Uh,
man, for sure.
yeah, and
Sometimes,
it's a big
sometimes just that
mindset.
little bit of adjustment, and sometimes just hearing
Yeah,
it from a coach or,
yeah,
who it is. And like that reminds me of something that my karate instructor used to say all the time at tournaments. He would say, yeah, like, the competition's good, but always had this whisper, like, wait till I get out there, wait till they see
yeah,
me compete. So
yeah.
no, no, that's awesome. What's your relationship with Coach Stieber now? Like, do you guys stay in touch or?
We're yeah. I mean, even when we were competing, I think people thought we hated each other, but we wrestled each other since we were little kids. We've always had a good relationship, and I
Yeah,
still to this day have a good relationship. We both coached on Team Canada together, and we've had to room together, and
nice.
it's with no hard feelings there. We both were just really competitive individuals.
Yeah. That's awesome. And then in 2014, you finally, get over that hump and you win a national champion, beating Tyler Graff, who's no slack, by the way, because I
Yeah,
mean, because you and Graff had some battles too. Talk
yeah.
about, the emotions there. It's like you just won a national champion in front of your the Iowa fans. Did you feel like everything that you worked for got accomplished? Or knowing you, you're like, all right, like there's still more to be done. But was that a relief?
It was a huge relief, and it was interesting because, if you go and watch Hidlay's interview just recently after he won Worlds, and everyone's like, for someone who celebrates like crazy, like that was not what we expected out of you. And I knew exactly how we felt.
Yeah,
Like those are those moments where you can't explain it, but you have no energy to celebrate because more than anything, it's like a relief of all this weight and all this pressure and everything you've worked for your entire life. And
yeah,
he was in a similar situation where he always second, third, and then he goes and wins a freaking world title. And for me, it was like, I finally won that national title that I was chasing.
yeah.
Um,
And in fashion too, man.
and it's
That
just
was so
like
awesome.
it's this huge weight that's just lifted off you where like it more than anything,
Yeah.
it's relaxing. And there's no, you're not raising the roof like he talks about or flexing or screaming or celebrating. It's a very weird feeling.
Yeah. It's emotional, I'm sure, you know.
Yeah.
Do you think your life would have been a little bit different had you lost that match? Because we talk
I
about
don't know.
opportunities, you know, and
I don't know on that one. I do know originally in my mind, I think I thought that was going to be the last time I wrestled, like as I was preparing and getting ready for that. Because that was kind of when the Olympics and all the weights changed, and 25 was the weight. And,
yeah,
I was like, there's no way I can make that weight. Like, not a chance. And, me and my wife had planned on getting married and had all this stuff figured out. And we were getting ready to kind of move on to what was next. Um, and then a couple weeks later, the US Open happened, and I see Tyler Graff made 57.
oh yeah.
And I think he
Didn't
lost
he
to Hayes in
win?
the
Oh, he
finals. He either
lost.
won or lost to Hayes in the finals.
And you're thinking,
Which one it
I can
was.
do
And
that.
I'm sitting there and I'm watching it, and we're at my wife's dad's house. And I was like, he's bigger than me. If he can make the freaking weight, I can make it.
Yeah.
And I just remember calling Tara, and I said, hey, I'm gonna wrestle. And he's like, all right, awesome. And I was like, if Graf can make the weight, I can make the weight.
Yeah.
And it was hard. It was very hard, but I made it. And my first event was the trials, and I made the team. And I think it surprised everyone,
Oh yeah.
other than maybe, myself and a couple of the coaches. But the trials was the same day as our wedding shower. Like we had everything planned where I was not wrestling that year.
Yeah.
Um,
I
but it's
think
just
for
little things like
wrestling
that.
fans wouldn't have been a surprise, Tony, because I mean, like you're already a champion to begin with. So
Yeah,
I mean, obviously the thing is you're not discrediting yourself, but to say people were surprised, they weren't.
yeah,
I wasn't because I remember back then I'm thinking like of course, like he's the guy, you
yeah.
know. But no, it's interesting how you have that humble mindset and just like everything happens so fast, you know. It's like you get the call
Mhm.
or you make that call, then here you are, and then you talk about your wedding shower. So
Yeah.
that's awesome, man. So now let's switch gears to one more topic. I want to talk about coaching, right?
Yep.
So you get the call that Coach Rob Cole is coming in.
Yep.
Holy crap, what's going through your mind now? Like, is there a fear base? Like, man, I might not be here anymore. So what was that conversation that you had with Coach Cole? And the reason why I asked that is because traditionally, when a new coach comes in, they bring in their own pedigree
Yep.
of coaches. So talk about what that experience was like.
Yeah, no, that's it's an interesting one. And me and Cole had a relationship way before he
Sure.
even got, because he's a UNC alum. So I started, we had those conversations. And um when he got the job at Stanford, he tried to hire me to go to Stanford with him.
Wow.
And so we've had many, conversations and relations before now. It's a little bit different, obviously, when you're both going for the same job, right? But when the job opened, he was one of the first people I called, like, hey, I want this, but and I straight up told him, I go, there's only one other person I would work for here if they got the job, and that's you. If anyone else got it, I probably like, no, I'm not doing this, because I would have felt slighted a little bit.
Sure.
Uh, but I understand, Rob Cole coming in, and
He's a big
this is
name.
alma mater. He's a big name. There's a
Yeah.
lot of alumni. I love him. But at UNC at the time, there were not many people you could do that with, because we just had CD Mock, Cole, Jaworski, and really O'Connor were our only national champs.
Yeah.
And O'Connor was, I think he had just graduated or was still wrestling, or I can't remember, the time frame. It might have been a year out. So there was really only one other person that maybe made sense.
Yeah.
And we had many conversations on it. And even Rob, like to this day, like there's only one person I've ever not fired and kept on it when I brought in, that was you. And I was like, I know. So it wasn't a thing where I had a bunch of fear because I wasn't really worried like, hey, if for some reason you didn't keep me, I'm gonna be fine.
Yeah.
There's something to pop up. I've done the right things and I have the right mindset and I've coached national champs and all Americans where there'll be a place where if I need to make a transition, it'll be all right.
Yeah, phenomenal coach, man, for sure. No, it's awesome that you've kept that relationship. I actually had a chance to meet Coach Cole at Final X. I remember seeing him.
Okay.
He was walking out. I said, "Coach Cole, what's up?" And I had to keep my like, I had to tell myself, "Don't be a fan, boy. Did you, just talk to him?" But no, he was really cool. He
Yeah.
said a lot of great stuff about you. So and it's just awesome how it comes for yeah, full circle, excuse me. So Tony, talk about your day-to-day job. So I know you're the associate head
Yeah.
coach, and I think some people might think, "Oh yeah, just come in like you run practices," but I know there's so much more that goes into that. I help run a jiu-jitsu school here in Delaware, so there's so many different hats that I'm wearing. And
Yeah.
you made a video, bro, like about 6 months ago, and I saved it to this day because you said everything that my instructor talks about cleanliness, making
Yeah.
sure that the facilities like kept. And if you're not good at communicating, you will get good because it's not just teaching jujitsu or teaching wrestling or coaching wrestling. It's like how you interact with parents. And bro, when you made that video, it's almost like I needed to not hear it, but things I needed a reminder. So I remember saving it. I screenshot it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, guys, this man knows what's up. So yeah, so talk us through a day in the life of, as an assistant, because most people might not even know what that consists of.
Yeah. I mean, it varies. This last month has been wild because we've been doing facility renovations and
Okay.
uh, that's kind of where I think we were trying to get on the podcast last week. And I was like, give me a week. I need one more week.
No, it's all good,
This
bro.
is like the first week I've been back in my office in a month.
Wow.
And it's not because I didn't want to. There was just so many other things, like you talk about different hats, whether it's building walls, painting walls, getting the kitchen all put together, helping with figuring out all the lockers and the nameplates and all the little things that go into that. Like, it's funny, this morning me and Rob were talking about, man, it's crazy that we're almost, um, what do you call it? Not general managing, but yeah, he goes, we're almost GM in this whole project. And it's like, yeah, I know it's kind of wild. And then we had our casino and comedy night that we're advertising and putting, whether it's ads on Facebook and different things like that and trying to get the word out
Yeah.
along creating the practice plans, getting the schedule together and getting contracts sent out. Getting the travel and logistics for our season put together.
Yeah.
There's so many, like I always tell people, the wrestling and the coaching is the easiest thing and the smallest amount of thing that we actually probably do.
Facts.
Uh,
Facts.
Working with the managers to make sure because we just got like everything's redone in our facility, and I had to bring them in like, no, this is the new way we're cleaning. I need you weekly doing X, Y, and Z, and mopping floors and cleaning kitchen counters and all different things. That's just new now because we want it to look clean. We need it to stay clean.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's crazy, along with you got visits coming and recruiting, and you're going out doing home visits. So it's been a month of
Yeah.
just constant nonstop go.
Is there a certain like time period throughout the year that you allot for traveling to, see recruits? Because obviously during the heavy season it might be tough, but is there a certain window where you're like, all right, from this month or this month I'm gonna go travel? And is that tough, man? Because yeah, I mean taking time away from family, but
Yeah.
I'm sure you know that going in, but how do you
Yeah.
balance that? Because
I
you're
wouldn't
right.
say there's a certain time. We all know the first week of August when the home visit window opens, like we're gonna be out and about going. And me and Rob did a little road trip where we went from Ohio all the way through PA up to New York.
Wow.
And then just recently I did another one with Coach Enoch right before he left where we were in Iowa, Nebraska, Illinois. So you try and plan these little like weekend or week trips out to try and hit as many as you can. And now it's a lot of one-offs.
Yeah.
Like we're recruiting kids. Hey, I gotta go see him again. We gotta go. Like, let's get on a plane. Let's jump out and go see him. So that's where it gets tough. It's hard to really create a set calendar. It's
Yeah.
always changing.
Yeah. You talked about the NIL earlier. I know that's got to be
Yeah.
tough because you bring a kid in and you do your best to build a relationship, and who knows if they're going to stay or not. So, like,
Yeah.
what techniques or tactics do you guys use as a coaching staff to kind of really build in the Tar Heel mentality?
Yeah, I would say just the opportunities we create here, whether it's internships, mentorships, the people you're going to meet in your career field you want to get into, and setting up those connections really early, so they can see how important that is because the NIL and rev share stuff has changed again now. Um,
Has it?
yeah, and that's where it's getting tough for some of the parents is they think it's where it's the old style where it was kind of the Wild West, do whatever you want, to where it's now under this Deloitte umbrella, or you're only getting a certain amount of rev share from the school
Is
and
it
the
better
offer.
now?
It's better on a sense of where it makes sense,
Yeah,
where a program's not losing $1 million for their school and also paying out. This is what we're worth. Like,
yeah,
are you really? We lost $1 million. How do you have value? Um, so it's back to making sense where, there's actual what is your real value
yeah.
um in NIL, not in just competition wise.
Sure. All right. So one last question. So you
Yeah.
find that David Taylor is going to replace the legendary John Smith. From a
Yeah.
coaching perspective, what goes to your mind? Like, nah, it's too soon. Like, I mean, obviously David Taylor's
Um,
a great name, but he's one of your peers, but
yeah.
just honestly speaking, like, because I mean, he came in with a huge, huge salary cap, to my
Yeah.
understanding, and he's getting paid more than most coaches that have been coaching for a long time. So I'm sure that had to rock some feelings, but like, what goes through the wrestling mindset of as a coach when you see someone like David coming in?
No surprise to me at all. I would say the biggest thing is you kind of feel bad for a guy like Coleman
Yeah,
who made that
yeah,
transition over there, thought he was going to get it, but at the same time, it's like, it's David Taylor. How do you turn that down if he's open and available? For me as a coach, I'm like, this is awesome because I feel like, and I've ran into this a couple times with certain situations where you're trying to look at jobs and ADs only want to hire head coaches. Well, how do you hire a head coach, become a head coach if no one will hire you as a head coach and all they want is head coach experience?
sure.
So when you get a guy like David coming in, is zero coaching experience outside of his kids club,
Hmm.
uh, and the success he's having, it just shows like, oh, well, maybe these young guys can do it. Maybe they understand and they relate a little bit more. And,
Absolutely.
for me, that's where the excitement was because it's like, all right, there's someone who believes in a young guy, or believes in someone with limited coaching experience. As long as they have the right tools and the right mindset, they're going to win and they're going to figure it out.
For sure. No, like I think it was awesome too, and I was happy
Yeah.
that they kept Coach Caldwell on because he's someone
Yeah.
else that I think is done a phenomenal job too.
Yeah.
Tony, thank you so much for being on today's show. Do you so before we exit out, what's next for you like in the immediate future? Because I know you have your season coming up.
Yep.
Anything that you want to that's worth mentioning to the the audiences?
Nope. Just getting ready for our college season, and then we got our golf outing next month. So again, getting ready for the next events that are coming up.
I love it, man. Always busy. And where can people find you?
Um, all my social handles are all the same. It's T_RAM133. And then, I connect as much as I can with fans, friends, family, whatever it may be. I try to answer as many questions as possible. So that's the easiest places to find me is on social media.
Yeah, and bro, like I gotta say, your professionalism was on point because I remember sending that
Yeah.
email and like 5 seconds later you got back to me. I said, yes, this guy knows what's up. So
So I
but yeah,
try to
but
do my best.
yeah, man, for sure. But Tony, thank you so much, for being on today's show. I hope that the viewers got a chance to, get a better glimpse of who you are and your wrestling
Yep.
mindset all the way back from your early days to the early freestyle days, talking about, the changes there. And I wish you all the best of luck. And I'm gonna be rooting for you this season and for the Tar Heels.
No problem. Thank you.